Hi guys, and welcome to Escape Wheel Watch Reviews. My name is Steve, and today we're going to be reviewing a custom Berny Dive watch. So this watch was sent to the channel for free from bernywatch.com. After I built it and submitted my final design, I don't have to send the watch back, but you know the deal by now. That's not going to sway my review one way or the other. The retail price for this watch is $150 US. However, I've seen the price go down to $100, and at the time that I built it, I believe it was 130, so I'm not sure why it's back up to 150, but that is the current retail price as of the time of this review. Like I mentioned, this is a custom-built watch, which is really cool. You can pick and choose your bezel color, your dial colors, your hand color, your indice color. You can choose the strap that it comes on, and then you can pick and choose a logo or wording up here at the 12 o'clock as well as down here at the 6 o'clock. You can also get whatever you want on the crown, caseback, and also the clasp. So lots and lots of options to choose from. It is pretty cool that you can have your own custom logo put on a watch like this. And yeah, I mean, the communication with the seller was great. The building experience was great. They sent a picture of it before just to confirm that it looked good, and they sent it my way. So I think the whole process was really smooth, really easy, and quite enjoyed it. So yeah, it's pretty fun to pick and choose, you know, your different setup. I was debating between this kind of Batman colorway or like a root beer colorway, but you can go crazy with this thing and do all sorts of stuff. The watch case is made of 316L stainless steel. It has sapphire crystal, screw-down crown, screw-down caseback, 200 meters of claimed water resistance, and it comes on your option of a 5-link, a 3-link, or a rubber strap, and it is powered by the Seiko NH35 automatic movement. So $150 for basically a fully customizable watch. Any combination you want. I mean, it sounds like a pretty cool deal, but what do I think about the actual watch itself? Let's dig in and we'll find out. But before we do a quick wrist check. Just got finished reviewing this one. It should be up on the channel now. But yeah, this is the San Martin Watch Dives SN004. So yeah, really like it. Go check it out. All right, so we'll check out the dimensions. So we've got a 40.3 millimeter bezel diameter, thickness of 13.1. We've got a 20 millimeter lug width. Bracelet tapers down to 16, and I believe the 3-link also tapers to 16. Back up to about 18 at the clasp, and sized up for my 7.5-inch wrist. This one weighs just under 140 grams. So that's about the sweet spot for a watch like this style. We've seen it a million times. I'm not going to say what it is, but you know, we've seen it. It's a flat case, as you can see there, but it's really compact, lug to lug. I'm pretty happy with the size of this thing and the weight of this thing. I know this 5-link bracelet kind of brings the weight down a little bit, but it does still feel pretty good on wrist, so I'm going to go outside right now and throw it on mine. Here you can see on my 7.5-inch wrist, it wears great. I've got no complaints about how it wears. It is a little bit flat, which is typical with this case style, but it's compact enough, 47 millimeter lug to lug, where it doesn't really matter too much. Yeah, I think it looks pretty good. What do you guys think? Lots and lots of light play off of that bezel insert. I don't think the lack of AR coating is a big deal at all, especially on a flat crystal like this. It's perfectly acceptable in my opinion. Nice cyclops too. We'll talk about all that later. But it does feel pretty balanced on wrist, and yeah, I think it looks pretty good. And here we are out in some direct sunlight, and as you can see, it wears great. It gets a little washed out when you're doing something like that, but yeah, otherwise it is completely fine. I see no real issues with it. Lots of sparkle off of that fully polished bezel. But yeah, I think it looks pretty good. What do you guys think? Let's go inside, we'll throw it on some straps, and then we'll get back to this review. And here we are on a Pagani Design 5-link bracelet. And you might be asking yourself, why would I switch from one to the other? Well, you'll find out when we talk about the bracelet on this thing. So this is just proof that this does fit. It's not the best fit, but it does fit, and I think it looks better, and I'm just going to come straight out. It's a better bracelet. So yeah, that looks good. Here we are on a rubber, kind of like a sailcloth strap with white stitching. I think that looks pretty good. I got this one off of AliExpress. I would recommend it. It's a nice strap. I'll leave a link for this down below. Yeah, that looks good. What do you guys think? We are on a black rubber strap. This is a fitted rubber. Link will be down below. This thing fits it pretty good. It's definitely not perfect, as you can see there, but it doesn't interfere with the bezel, which some of these tend to do. So yeah, this is a pretty good pairing in my opinion. I think that looks really good. Here we are on a bright blue purlin. Got one layer underneath the watch there. I think that looks really good. What do you guys think? Matches pretty good out in direct sunlight here. It's a pretty good match to the bezel. Yeah, I like that. Nice pop of color. Got one last strap to throw it on. And lastly, here we are on a nylon strap, dark blue, with 2 layers underneath the watch there. It does set up a little bit, but it's not too bad. I think it's got a fairly flat case back for this style of watch. Yeah, that looks alright. It's not my favorite, but looks pretty good. Let's go back inside and let's get back to this review. Alright, so let's talk about the case finishing. So case finishing on this is pretty typical for this style of watch. You have a vertical brushing on the top of the lugs here. You can see it's okay. It's not great. You can see it's not quite linear. You kind of have these brush lines going in different directions. So that's kind of what I'm looking at. This side over here looks pretty good actually, but this lug here, it's looking a little messy. You've got polishing on the sides. The polishing is actually fairly good on this thing, nice and smooth. I've got no real issues with the polishing on this. Just the brushing is just not the best. It's not horrible. You can see there on this lug here, it looks pretty good. Definitely, again, on this side over here, it is it's not the best. Flipping it over to the crown side, you've got polished crown guards. As you can see there, fully polished crown. I've got the RCW logo on it. RCW is a brand and a logo that we came up with over on Reddit Chinese Watches. So that's RCW is Reddit Chinese Watches. It's just something that we came up with. I kind of like the logo, so I threw it on this one, threw it on the dial. But you can get whatever you want on this thing besides throwing, a real brand's logo on there. So yeah, pretty cool that you can get this thing customized. But I do think the case finishing on this, it's pretty decent. It's definitely not the best. It's on par with like a Pagani design, I'd say. So flipping it over and looking at the case back, you can see circular brushing on the case back, simple notches to get a tool in there, which I do like to see. It's a very plain case back, and you can also see the bottom of the case itself is circular brushed. And it's fine. I see no issues with it at all. It's been fairly comfortable for me. This edge over here is a little bit sharp, just a little bit. It's nothing that I haven't seen on a watch of this style in the past, but I just thought I'd mention it. Otherwise, I think the case finishing is perfectly acceptable. All right, so let's talk about the bezel. So the bezel insert, like I mentioned earlier, you can get a ton of options. You can get GMT, you can get 12-hour, you can get just a dive time bezel. You can get all sorts of colors and combinations. So you just really got to go check them out. This Batman colorway, it's done really nicely. Good engraving, I think. The blue is very vivid. It's a different color blue than I was expecting. I've had a Batman in the past, and it just looked a little different than this. So just keep that in mind. I don't dislike it. I just wish it was a little bit more toned down, I guess. The numerals themselves, they are filled with BGW9 Lume. And I mean, the application of the Lume looks really good. We'll get to a full Lume shot here later on. I don't see any real issues with the bezel insert. I think that's nice and clean. The bezel itself, it is fully polished. I'm not a fan of that at all. I do like it when they put a little bit of a circular brushing on the bottom or circular brushing on the top or something. I think the fully polished bezel looks a little cheap, and it also cuts down on the grip. So the grip on this is not as good as some other watches that are like this. It's not horrible, it's just not as good. So, but let's get into the bezel action. So this is a 90 click unidirectional. So you can see here, there's a little bit of, let's get it lined up first. So there it is. It is nicely aligned. I'll give them that. There's no back play. So right here, I'm trying to push it back. No back play. No real forward play either. You do have a little, I mean, you can grab the bezel and wobble it a little bit, but it's not moving back any, which is good. It's just moving, it's got a little bit of play until the next click. So yeah, kind of high pitch clicks. You can feel each and every one of them. It doesn't sound the best, I'll say that. It doesn't sound the best, but it's definitely not the worst bezel I've had. There's no real, there's maybe just a hair of up and down play, just a hair. pressing on the bezel, can't really feel anything moving around. So that's pretty good. The bezel, it's not great, but it's definitely not a deal breaker. But I do like the fact that it is fully lume. That's pretty cool. All right, let's test this for sapphire. So we've got a sapphire crystal, and we've got a sapphire cyclops. So having both of those being sapphire, that is really nice. There's no anti-reflective coating on it, but I keep on saying it, on a watch like this, I don't really think it needs AR coating. Just a black dial with a flat sapphire crystal. It's never going to be obnoxious and throw glare everywhere. And this is no exception. I think the crystal is perfectly fine. You can see it sits up ever so slightly from the bezel. The cyclops on this is a good one. Magnifies, I'd say that's probably 2x at least, maybe a little bit more than 2x. It could use some AR coating on the cyclops, but I've never really had an issue with it, and it does seem to be well aligned. So pretty happy with the crystal on this and the cyclops. I think they did a good job on that. All right, let's have a look at the dial. So we have a nice, deep, glossy black dial, but like I said, you can get this in a bunch of different dial colors. This one here, it's done really, really well though. Nice, deep gloss. The indices, they're pretty nice. I've seen a kind of a step up in the indice quality across the board from even other manufacturers. So this one kind of reverts back to that old style where you can see the nice solid border on the triangle and the rectangles there. But then you've got the circular ones, which are kind of rounded and they just don't reflect light. So it's kind of weird. If you look at it like this here, those two circular indices there, those should be reflecting the light just like these indexes are. Steel Dive, San Martin, obviously, Suges, even Pagani's later models, they all do that. This one doesn't. It's just a minor thing, but it's something that I pick up on every single time, and it kind of bothers me that they don't reflect the light like the other indices do. Besides that, though, it's pretty nice. I think the hands maybe a little bit undersized. You can see the second hand reaches right out, which is good. Minute hand stops a little bit short, and I think overall, I think the hands are just a little bit too small, but they're really not that bad. They are a nice handset, and that is a nice handset though. Faceted, and I mean they're nice and clean and crisp, and yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. You can see here you got a minute track printed around the outside, and then I've got my custom text on the middle here. We've got the RCW logo. I'm going to get nice and tight for you so you can see kind of the quality of the printing. When you get up close, you can see that it's not perfect, and something is off. The either my logo is off or just the printing is off just a hair, just a little bit to the right. Yeah, that's kind of what you're gonna get from it though. It's not bad. This automatic 200 meters down here, again, getting real tight for you. You can see, I mean, you don't really notice any imperfections until you're really getting close to it like this. So yeah, I think it's fine. It's pretty cool that you can get whatever you want on the dial. I do like that a lot. The lume on this thing is a highlight. The lume is great. So I'm going to pop up a lume shot right now. And here you can see it against some other watches. You can see the fully lume dial is excellent. The hands, the indices, they hang on all night long. It's BGW9 lume. The application is pretty good. It's not perfect, but it's really good. And it does last all night long. So I'm actually really surprised, really happy with the lume on this watch. All right, so let's talk about the movement on this thing. So the movement is operated by this 3 o'clock screw down crown. The screw in, screw out action of this crown is very smooth. Really happy with that. You get a nice satisfying pop out when it disengages from the threads. The first position, you hand wind it. Nice and smooth. Second position is your date change. Again, nicely done. And third position is your time setting position. It also hacks. This is the Seiko NH35 automatic movement. So it hacks, hand winds 21,600 beats per hour, about 40 hours of power reserve. It's cheap, it's reliable, it's everything you need in a watch, exactly like this. The execution of the crown, there's a little tiny bit of wobble there, but it's nothing bad at all. Nothing I've actually noticed in day-to-day use. Yeah, pretty happy with the movement overall. Here's how mine has been running. It's been running good, actually. I'm quite surprised by it. Very happy with that. The wind in action, screw in action of this, again, very smooth, very happy with that. And the crown, like I mentioned, you can get whatever logo you want on it. and I think it's plenty grippy. I think it's a good size. It might be a little bit small maybe, but I've really not had any issues with it. Okay, so let's talk about the bracelet. So the bracelet on this thing, like I mentioned, it is 20 millimeters. It tapers down to 16 millimeters. It does have male end links, as you can see there. So let me grab a dimension for you. So overall dimension is 52.3 millimeters. So that's kind of a bummer. Yeah, I was expecting a little bit nicer of a 5-link bracelet. You can see it's got flex in it, which is kind of what you want in a bracelet like this. It is very comfortable, I'll give them that. It just feels a little cheap, very lightweight. These are all solid links, and it has solid end links. The end link fitment, I think they follow the curvature of the case okay. It's definitely not perfect. It's about what I expect for this price range, but you can see here, grabbing onto the end link, there's quite a bit of wiggle room in here. They could definitely tighten that up somehow. I know they kind of went to a different manufacturer for this bracelet, so maybe they can work with them and get this a little bit tighter. But yeah, it is a very comfortable bracelet. I'll give them that. The clasp on this, we've seen this clasp a lot. I have at least. And it's your typical dive style clasp. It's a little sharp on these top edges here. These bottom edges have been honed down pretty nicely, I think. You've got your safety latch here, which works perfectly fine just when you're not using gloves. You got your other latch there. Again, it works fine. Tolerances in here, they're pretty good. This tolerance here is nice and tight. This tolerance here, you do have a little bit of wobble, but I've never had an issue getting this thing closed or opened or anything like that. So I think it works fine. You can see the finishing inside the lugs here. Sorry, this is a little bit of water. So you can see the finishing inside the lugs there. Again, about what I expected. It's nothing, I mean, it's terrible, just terrible, but it's what you get on a watch of this price range. Yeah, it's just not good. This is basically what you're getting with Pagani design as well. So just keep that in mind. Nice thing is you do have a quick link here, easy 5mm extension, which is really nice. It worked perfectly, unlike some of the Pagani designs. You do have micro adjust here as well. So you got to pull out that quick link there, and then you got 3 levels of micro adjust. I don't like that, but it does work fine for a watch like this. So yeah, overall, I think the bracelet could be improved. It's definitely not horrible. I think the finishing is done to an acceptable standard. The end links look a little bit different than the rest of the links. It's kind of odd. Very coarse brushing, kind of matches the case on the end links, but then this is very satinized on the actual links themselves. It's an odd one. The middle polished links, again, if you look closely, they look pretty bad, but again, that's typical of a watch in this price range, and from far and on wrist, you never notice it. Brushing or polishing on the sides as well looks to be acceptable. You do have screw pins for adjusting. I had some major issues with these screw pins. I almost couldn't get this watch sized for my wrist. Yeah, it was just not a pleasant experience. These screws are very small, and you can see here, I stripped them. I mean, the screw heads on these things are very delicate. It feels like a very soft metal. I've never had this much problem sizing the bracelet. Thankfully, I was able to get a good fit, but yeah, it wasn't pretty. Definitely wasn't pretty, and I don't want to even mess with the screws in this thing. Again, Bernie, if you are watching, you guys need to work on the this 5-link bracelet. Yeah, it's not horrible. I think female end links continue this same brushing on these links down here, and then these screw pins. I mean, those are horrible. Those were the worst pins I've had to deal with. Yeah, just not great. So overall, I think the bracelet, at least this 5-link, is a little bit of a letdown. Yeah, I'm not very happy with the bracelet. So there you go, guys. That is the custom Berny watch. I think for $150 or even less than that, getting a custom watch is kind of cool. You know, I wanted this Batman colorway, but I didn't want to deal with the cheap Chinese DG3804B GMT movements. Those things are not great. And I also didn't want to pay, $300 plus for a San Martin or Kronos or something like that. So I opted for this NH35 Batman looking thing, and I do like the way that it looks. I think the execution of the customization and that whole process was really nice. I have no issues with that. I think being able to customize the bezel and the dial and, you know, pretty much anything you want as far as the looks of this thing goes, I think that's really cool, and it's kind of worth the premium. So I see what they're doing. Would I recommend the watch though? It's a tough one. It's definitely a tough one. It's not my favorite watch of this style, but I think there is some value in the customization aspect of it, and I think if you're looking for something like that, they're definitely the ones to go for. I know some other watch manufacturers out there do offer dial customizations, but that's it. They don't really do the crown or the caseback or the clasp, and they definitely can't mix and match like Berny can. So yeah, definitely give them a look, check them out, maybe watch for a sale, and then build your custom watch. It's kind of cool. Really cool process, really cool outcome, I think. I just think they fell a little short on the bracelet, but otherwise I think it's an okay watch. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. I think that's about it though, so thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. See ya.